what's up everyone? Sean here with BlueRidgeSilverhound, and today we got the midweek edition of the Pocket Change Market Report. And this is for November 17th, 2021. I wanted to kick off the video by saying thank you for joining in on this video, and most importantly, for being astute followers of my work. All these years, I greatly appreciate a lot of you that have not only been around for a while, but also to all my new guests that are coming through here on the Blue Ridge Silverhound channel. I appreciate your time and dedication to learning more about coins and currency and errors and varieties, and how possibly you could make it a living. Well, if this is your first time here, first of all, welcome. Number two, the Pocket Change Market Report is about a 3-day glance at all of the errors and varieties, some of the most interesting ones that have sold on eBay during this time period. Now, traditionally, a lot of the coins that I feature are going to be raw. We don't talk about graded coins on this episode, and the big reason why is, why bother? Because grading costs money, right? Take, for example, PCGS. They are the biggest coin grader out there, certification-wise. They do it all. But, to certify an error and have it graded is going to cost you nearly $100 just for one coin. So what if you find an error that's worth around $20-$30 and you really want to sell it, but at the same time, you want to maximize the amount of profit to come out of that? Now, is a coin that's traditionally $20 to $30 going to be worth more because it's encapsulated in some plastic holder? Not necessarily. Oftentimes you will lose money doing that, because at the end of the day, a $20 to $30 variety or error that's graded, nothing earth-shaking with an actual numerical grade, will still make the coin worth about $20 to $30. It might get maybe a 10% bump, but you're going to be throwing away money in that regard. And that's why we focus on those type of coins. Now, with Pocket Change Market Report, obviously there's an emphasis for secondary market sales on eBay. People do go through bankrolls and they cherry pick at coin shows and shops so they can add to their collection. All right, that's the other good, aspect of this whole thing. So you also want to keep that and take that into consideration too. When you're going through bankrolls, okay, it's like, house money. You're really not investing more other than time and maybe just a little bit of gas to go through these rolls and finding something probably pretty special for you. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right in. We are using raw seller images. So some of the images aren't going to be the greatest of quality. If it's pertinent, we'll talk about how something like that can be improved on your listings. But I'm excited to get started. Let's go ahead and check out the first coin. And it's going to be a 1917 Lincoln wheat cent. Now, the coin in itself is not a very good condition coin. Okay, it's pretty well circulated. I would say it's probably about a fine condition coin. But really, what really matters is what's on the reverse here. And this is actually a detached lamination. All right, so the lamination, or a piece of the coin, had fallen off at one point and has recirculated. But this is a right good size lamination error, and one in which you'll want to keep an eye out on, especially the wheat cent era of coins. You're going to see quite a few of these. As rough as this one looks, it did manage to pick up $5.85 on the secondary market, and that's with 6 bits. So that's not bad. Another person's trash can be a little bit of your treasure. So make sure you look out for things like this. The next one that we have here is on the list for probably a much bigger, deeper reason than, a bunch of the double dies that you could find on the 2009 Philadelphia minted Formative Years Lincoln cents. Now, the Formative Years features Abraham Lincoln as a much younger adult, sitting on a log reading a book. All right, so that's what the reverse is going to look like. But you guys have probably picked it up already on this image, but if not, we're going to go ahead and isolate it on this much better looking image. Yeah, check out that big relatively big die crack at the 12 o'clock position. So it goes right through the word states from the rim and into the field right in front of Abraham Lincoln's face. These come up very infrequently. So this is quite kind of a different change of pace, a well-warranted one at that. And because of that, it is relatively a newer type of coin that not a lot of people have seen on the secondary market. Therefore, there are going to be a few people interested in it. This particular coin sold for $14.95. And to a little bit lesser extent, this is also WDDR number 13. All right, so this is also a Wechsler's doubled die, and more likely it's going to be an extra thumb or an extra finger right here. The images aren't that great, but the big selling feature is going to be that die crack that comes off of the 12 o'clock position on the reverse of the coin. The next one here, it's always good to see these. It just means that people are actually looking for them. I've talked about this coin on a number of occasions, but it's the 2017 P Lincoln Shield Cent. Now, it's the only date of Lincoln Cent that features a physical P mint mark. Aside from that, it's a very high mintage piece, but take a look at this coin. If you look here in the fields in front of Abraham Lincoln's face and his tuxedo, or suit, or whatever you want to call it, there's some pretty strong die clashing. You can almost see a little bit of E pluribus unum right here on the front of the bow tie. That's relevant, and it's very strong. Back of the head, you're going to see more of the shield clashed onto the obverse dies. I mean, this is quite strong and quite neat. And, these are always a collector's favorite. When they do come up, they get scooped up, and for probably some of the most, I would say, deserving money that you could ask for. This one right here is sold for $57, if you could believe that. And that's with only 7 bids. This is a relatively new enough coin and date that you could still find this out there in circulation. So for you folks that reside east of the Mississippi on the East Coast, look out for these. This one sold for over $50. More of them will be out there, and it's going to be free, easy money when you do come across it. Now here's a much newer, current 2021 Lincoln Shield Cent. Now we've seen a few of these, and they are out there for the taking. But this one right here features a partial tilted collar. The coin also looks like it's a little bit broad struck. But this one right here, the collar was slightly tilted a little bit. So the collar, as you guys know, actually keeps the coin in the striking chamber as that strike is occurring. So if the collar is tilted or it's non-existent, keep in mind it's spring-loaded. You're either going to get a broad strike or something like this. Now, it's funny that it's featured on a brand new 2021, right? Here we are in the most modern, technologically, part of our lives. And you'd figure things like this doesn't happen too often. But with the pandemic and all of the quality control lapses, more coins are finding their way out into circulation that look like this. So there are plenty more to find. Make sure you're keeping an eye out for these. This coin obviously looks like it's circulated a little bit. You could just tell right from looking at some of the bag marks and the staining on there. This example sold for $13, and that's with 2 bids. So this is a realistic example that you could find today, and there's plenty more 2021s to come. Stay tuned in this video. Now here's a really extreme example of a way off-center struck Jefferson nickel. Now, as you guys know, I really like off-center struck coins. However, I want one with a full date. So that's where a lot of the big values come into play, because collectors of this type of error want to assemble these by date. So having a full date and mint mark is always key to this particular error series. But this one right here just looks incredibly strong. It's off center by about 95, 98%. I think the seller said 98%, so we'll just go ahead with that. You do see a few letters in the motto, "In God We Trust," and then on the reverse you do see a little bit of Monticello, or Monticello, however you want to pronounce it. So aside from that, it's got a lot of shock value. It's a good kind of like conversation coin. that you could have with other people who aren't in the hobby. But this one right here sold for $19.95. And again, if it had a full date, man, these things can sell for as much as 2 to 3 times that value. Here's another nickel, and you'll find that in this episode of the PCMR, you're going to see quite a few nickel errors. So it's kind of like an untraditional week, where normally we see a lot of Lincoln cent and quarter errors, but this week we have quite a few Jeffersons. Here's another one right here. This one is struck through a kind of like mid-state die cap. So there was actually a coin still stuck to the hammer die or obverse die. And, you know, the cap, you know, will begin to kind of cover that die. And, you know, when it's a mid-state, you're going to see not that much details coming through on the obverse. Whereas a later die state, you begin to see, you know, more of the date, more of the profile of the president that's on there. And of course, you know, as more coins are being struck, that cap is going to thin out quite a bit. And that's why they call it a late stage die cap. Now this one right here, middle kind of like mid-stage type. I mean, it's a very attractive looking coin. And this one sold for $74.95. If you think you got a coin that looks like this, and probably your first guess is, oh yeah, it's damaged, or the acid ate away at it, you know, someone played around with it in a garage. Think again. This is a marquee example of a strike through die cap. So make sure you hold on to those. They're worth some pretty good money. And if anything, they make a really neat piece to a collection. Here's an earlier when I mean like wheat cent back off-center struck coin. Now, the seller had mentioned that this is somewhere like maybe 1950s, and it could be. I mean, most of the date is obscured on this example, so, you know, there's that. But also, the seller also wanted to illustrate not only this this die chip right here, that's on the letter T, but there are a few problem areas, like a few of these, you know, deep scrapes and stuff like that. So it's an imperfect coin, but it looks nice. It's an earlier, obsolete designed piece. And this one right here sold for $30.25. If it had a full date, it would sell for a lot more. And if it was even more clean without the scrapes and, you know, nicks and gouges and stuff, it would sell for a little bit more than that. But all in all, a pretty decent piece. If you needed one in your collection, you could do a lot worse. All right, so this is not kind of like a random image of some sort, but this is actually the top view of a $25 bank box, and it's an NF String and Son box of coin. As you guys know, obtaining bank rolls and full boxes of coin from the bank is a little bit of a chore these days. Excuse me. Bank tellers and managers are going to throw the whole coin shortage at you, and you know, in a way it's kind of true. You know, there's just not a lot of logistics going on, not as many employees working to get these coins out into circulation and at the bank, so they're kind of tough. They're a hot commodity. I wanted to do a little update that this one did sell shipped for $79. So if you have access to these bank boxes and you actually want to deal selling them, you could probably profit between 20 and 25 bucks per box as you sell them. So if you want to do that and pick up some extra money for the holidays, you can. Keep in mind that, you know, where there's plenty, it's going to dwindle, and then sooner or later there's not going to be as many boxes available in your area because, you know, these are being distributed in other ways. All right, so here's one of our favorites. This is a common variety to look out for. This is the 2000 Lincoln Memorial Cent that features the wide AM reverse. Of course, you guys see that big gap between the A and M in America. This is the one you're looking for, and this can be found on 3 specific dates for this particular series, and that's 98, 99, and 2000. Now, the 1999 is much more scarce. It's worth a lot more. Even in this condition, it's quite nice. But 98s and 2000s, even though they're like running water out there, these are common, but they're still worth a few dollars. And if you don't have one, good news, you could probably find one with minimal searching or buy one on the secondary market, and that'll help appease that part of your collection. Now, this coin is in pretty nice shape. It does have what looks to be a little bit of fingerprints on the obverse right in front of Abraham Lincoln's face. So the overall presentation is not, like supreme, to some collectors. But hey, this is a good one to keep and pull out. But if you did want to sell it, this example sold for $7.09, and that's with 8 bids. And again, this is a relatively common variety. Here's another off-center struck Lincoln, this time a much more tougher date. It's a 1983 P Lincoln Memorial Cent. This one is off-center by about 55%. But all in all, I mean, it's a good coin. It's in really good shape. It doesn't appear to have a lot of zinc rot, which these are commonly known for. But the coin is in really nice shape. And there are collectors that look for nice premier examples with a full date, and this would be a great one to add to that date set. This one right here is sold for $21.95. Now, the likelihood that you'll find any off-center struck coin in circulation is pretty low. But if you do come across these at like a local coin shop, or maybe there's a few coin shows you like to attend every so often, look out for these. Because there are some dealers that don't particularly care about modern errors like this, and they'll throw it out there for $5, So if you recognize one that looks like this, or like a broad strike, or any sort of error on a modern coin with a full date, keep in mind, if it's priced low enough, it might be a worthwhile pickup. All right, here we go. This is one of a few different updates on some hot 2021 coin errors. We're going to start it off with the Tuskegee Airmen. This is a 2021 P-minted example that exhibits that just wonderfully placed strike through that looks like this building got hit by a few mortars and missiles. Just shows like, what looks like smoke and fire coming out of the building. And of course, you have a very iconic World War II era of scenery right here with the Tuskegee Airmen. There's a lot of history built into this. And I think that's what is really pushing the value of these coins. And again, this is a brand new coin, ladies and gentlemen, for 2021. And it's like really easy, low-hanging fruit, money-making opportunity here. This example shows just a really nice strike through, which is like a combination of grease and metal shavings and other different types of debris mixed in there. And it struck onto the coin like you see here. This example, again, the market's still pretty hot. And I mean that literally for these coins. And this one sold for $146.33. And that's with 20 bids. Still, lots of activity on these. When one comes out in the marketplace, people do find them appealing and they pay attention. All right, and you have a bidding war, and that's what you want as a seller. And here's another one here. This is the good old Crown die chip. Now, this is an earlier progression piece. It's a 2021 P. Again, you guys on the East Coast are incredibly lucky that you're able to find stuff like this. But this is on the Washington crossing the Delaware quarter. It's a one-year shot design. But as you can see, on the top of Washington's hat, there is a pretty nice sized die chip. Now, is this the biggest size? No. There is another one that's called the Crown that actually goes into E pluribus unum that we will talk about later in the show. But how about this one? That's kind of like on the medium side of this die chip progression. This one actually didn't do as hot as the full Monty version of the die chip. This one sold for $9.49, and that's with 3 bids. Again, bigger is better when it comes to these errors. Here's another attractive, high-grade Jefferson nickel. This one's off-center by about 60%. And this time we have a full date, ladies and gentlemen. It's a 1989 P. So Philadelphia seems to be the main mint facility that cranks out some high-level types of error coins. And there's another one here. So this one right here sold for $34.49. Again, another great piece to have for a date set. Well, unfortunately, I'm going to say that this is the only dime on the list, if I'm not mistaken. After looking at my data here, yeah, this is the only dime. But dimes should and deserve their own fair share of love. This one right here, a lot of weakness going on. There's no date, nothing like that. This is just a wildly struck through Roosevelt dime. So the dies had a fresh application of grease to make sure that those dies continue to run really smoothly. So obviously, during the striking process, when a coin is struck and those dies have just gobs of grease on there, it's going to strike these coins very weakly until the grease finally kind of dissipates or, falls off or whatever. It's a process that takes, many strikes before they're clean enough to fully strike a design on these coins. Now this example right here sold for $13, and that's with 5 bits. Again, that's not bad. That's not nothing. That's a pretty good amount of money for one of the more common error types in US coins. Now, this is just a 2019 West Point circulation rarity quarter. You guys know 2019 and 2020, the US Mint had seeded a lot of these quarters into circulation. As a matter of fact, for each ATB National Park design, they released only 2 million of each coin. Now, there are a few of the national parks that are worth quite a bit more than all the other ones. Say, for example, the American Memorial Park that you see here. And it also helps that this coin is in phenomenal shape. Whereas a lot of the W Mint quarters that are coming out of circulation today are pretty well circulated and beat up. All right. And as a result, those coins aren't worth nearly as much money as the mid-state versions of these since like day one when people were finding these in bankrolls. However, this example, again, one of the most tougher, more desirable state parks in the West Point coinage series, sold for $44.70, and that's with 10 bits. Oh wow, we have our first piece of currency. Now, we do have a few this week. This is a 1990 $20 Federal Reserve note. A little bit older style with the smaller head, but as you can see, there's something funny going on there on the left side of the note. This is what's called a gutter fold error. All right, so the sheet, prior to any printing, had a wrinkle going down it. So when the wrinkle isn't stretched out and it's printed over, it's going to create a gutter. So by the time you pull apart that wrinkle on your note or the sheet, it's going to have an occlusion on there. All right, which is what this one is. The note is in pretty nice shape. It looks like it was discovered pretty close to when it was printed. As you can see, it affects both the first and third print. So the serial numbers and district seals and all that is the third print. Everything else is the first. But somewhere along the line, the sheet was stretched out because you have a full second print on the reverse of the note. It's a really nice condition piece. It looks like it didn't circulate any. I don't see any centerfold or anything like that. This particular note sold for $199.95. Just a beautiful note, and another one to keep an eye out for. These are, again, one of the more common errors of some earlier notes. All right, so this one right here is going to fool a lot of you. It looks like just a regular 1954S Jefferson nickel, but take a look at the overall strike of this coin. It is quite bad. This is what's called die deterioration, all right? And die deterioration is not an error per se. It's just the die's really worn down, and it's translating into a just supremely soft, mushy strike. Just look how flat Jefferson's jaw area is right here, and you will see exactly what I mean. The dies didn't have a whole heck of a lot of time left on them, but this is just a really nice high-end example, I think, because of the grade and all that stuff, and then just major die deterioration that we're seeing on this coin. really is a good recipe for the amount of money it's sold for. And this one sold for $35, which at the end of the day, die deterioration is not an error or a variety. It's just a byproduct of wear and tear onto the dies. But man, I mean, this is a really nice example. If you're looking for one that looks like this, expect to pay this kind of money for a mid-state version. Now, this is not a mid-state nickel, but it's a 1981 P, and you can notice something funny here. The front or obverse of the coin looks off-center, but the back of the coin is pretty well centered on that strike. This is what they call a misaligned die error. All right, so we had misaligned dies. More than likely, it's the hammer die in this case, which is the obverse die. Was slightly misaligned, or maybe it's a little bit loose, so when it struck the coin, there was a little bit of a skip or hop. Or maybe the die was just stuck in a certain position, and so every coin that it struck, it appears that the coin on its front looks off-center. Some of the most desirable misaligned dies will have the dies where some of the devices are cut off. So the motto right here is cut almost in half in certain areas. So that makes it a little bit more desired in the marketplace. This one right here in this current condition sold for $12. Again, that's easy money. If you position it right on eBay, then you have no problem making a sale like this. A few more nickels. We got a few of them. Here's an off-center struck Jefferson nickel. No readable date, so you guys know what I talk about date visibility. It matters all, to every collector of off-center struck coins. This one right here, pretty nice shape, sold for $22.50, and that's with 3 total bids. Here's another one here. This one is known as a double struck Jefferson nickel, but also a saddle strike. All right, so the coin was in between two striking chambers, but this one right here features a pretty nice wild double struck. You have quite a bit of design devices on both pieces. But no readable date, and that again matters to collectors of this type of error. This one right here sold for $64.71, and that's with 5 bids. Here's another one here. This time, it's a much more recent example. It's a 1999 D. This is a beautiful coin. This one right here, another saddle strike or double strike, whatever you want to call it. This one right here, however, features a uniface. So unlike the previous coin where it actually had a strike on the reverse as well, this one does not. And because of that, it does sell what I consider to be for the right type of market money. And it's going to be kind of funny because it's sold for $67.67, which is only a few dollars more than the previous example, even though this one has a full date. Again, the fact that it's uniface here on this much bigger off-center strike portion of it means a difference. Okay, it's an eye appeal thing. So $67.67, and that's with 2 bids on this one. All right, so we only have one off-center strike Washington quarter, and this time it's a 1983 P, and it's been brought to my attention based on the amount of these I've seen in the last few months that this is actually one of the more common dates to find an off-center struck example. So if you needed one with a full date, I'm happy to say that's not going to quite break the bank that you would expect. This one right here is about 20% off-center, and it's sold for $23.35. The coin is in fantastic shape too. So it's got grade, down, full date, and everything. It's a very good looking coin. All right, so I believe this is like our only lot that we're going to talk about in today's PCMR. But this is one, again, I'm going to continue to rehash because if you find a lot of coins of errors or varieties that is priced lower than what the actual market is, it might be a good idea to pick it up just so you could flip it and resell them. People do it all the time. We have a lot of 4, which I believe are all 1999 Lincoln Memorials. All of them are off-center in some regards. 3 of them has a full date. The 4th one does not. And the coins are all in fantastic shape. These 4 coins as a group sold for $69, and that's with 25 bids. If you were going to break it down by, per piece cost, It's going to be somewhere in that like $16, $17 range, and it may not be worthwhile buying this to flip on a singular coin basis. I think all the money's tapped out on this, but this is a pretty nice set if you're looking for these type of errors. All right, so here's another good coin to cherry pick at your local coin shop, and generally these are coins that are going to be available in bulk for like $5 to $10 a piece. So this is going to be a really good opportunity for a lot of you to really kind of dig into some dealer stock of just cheap coins and to kind of identify some coins with some potential. Like this one here. This is an 1867 Shield nickel. All right, and this is the one that has the rays on the reverse. But what's really cool, there's a lot of die cracks and cuds and all sorts of great stuff on this coin, as you can see here. Again, another person's trash is your treasure. So when you pick up stuff like this for a few bucks at the local coin shop, you're going to feel pretty good. Because when all's said and done, this particular coin in this condition, keep in mind, it's in rough shape, sold for $36, and that's with 8 bids. I mean, what, you pick something up for $5 and you turn around and, make 7x your money. I mean, it's a pretty good proposition. And again, it's another way that you could kind of build up your, your money situation. So that way you can afford bigger coins into your collection. I do it all the time. Some of my counterparts, like on the live coin Q&A show, does it all the time. We all cherry pick. We all sell these coins, have no emotional attachment to them. And we always end up in a position where we can afford like that gold piece, Imagine spending like $100 worth of just random cherry pick finds and then selling it all for $1,000 or $2,000. And then come away with, buying something that's quite significant to your collection. It's easy to do. You have to buckle down. You got to know what you're looking for. But, it's a great way to also feed the market with some pretty nice errors. And again, there's a butt for every seat. There's going to be people that collect these on die break progression. I mean, this one's pretty far gone. But still, a good example that still shows all of the die breaks. And here's another one here as well. This is an 1866 with rays. And as you can see, it's got a great big cud right here on the obverse. Again, another relevant coin. And this one also sold for $36. And that's with 6 bids. So can you imagine picking up the previous coin and this one for a few, $2 or $3, $5 a piece, and then turn around and selling them for, quite a bit more? I mean, that's a pretty good feeling. So make sure you look out for these. They're out there. There are a number of coin dealers that just don't give a hoot about stuff like this, but you do, right? Again, I'm always looking for these. This is a 1954S Lincoln Wheat Cent, and this one is the BIE die chip. All right, these are pretty well collected, and the people that do collect them, they like to collect them in really nice high grades. This one is in great shape. The coin in itself, without the BIE, is probably worth about $0.25. But when you find the BIE, these are much more relevant to error collectors of this type of occurrence. And because of that, this one sold for $11.49, and that's with 12 bids. So you had a number of people genuinely interested in this coin, and it did sell for a nice return. So when you're looking through Lincolns, especially those earlier ones, keep an eye out for BIEs as well. They're a great find. Here's another new one, 2020 Lincoln Shield Set. And this is going to be the coin that we're featuring, not specifically this date, but let's say the last 4 years worth of Lincoln Shields going back to about 2017. If I know it's kind of overbearing when you buy a $25 bank box and it turns out it's a completely full box of brand new singular date Shield Sets. But if you take the time to go through them, there's going to be some hidden gems in these. All sorts of various die breaks and cracks and cuds and die clashes are commonplace, especially in the last 2 years with the quality control lapses. This one right here, Good job on the seller for even identifying this pretty nice size die crack that goes into the devices of the coin into 1 cent right there, and that kind of like tapestry design on the reverse of the coin. And it's little things like these that typically everybody else overlooks is what matters. This coin right here is sold for $13.94. Can you imagine selling every single one of these for $10 a pop? They all add up. And if you find one in a BU roll, more than likely you're going to find a whole bunch more. I mean, there's really nothing else to say about this coin. 37D, three-legged buffalo variety. Again, you have an over-abraded die issue here, and that's why this front leg is missing. This is a really genuine example that has all of the pickup points of a genuine three-legged buffalo. Counterfeits do show up of this, and those are really easy to spot. But this one is sold raw. And again, it's another coin that is, of a marquee type of status. You know what it is, and you don't necessarily have to grade them. This one especially, I have a feeling that this one has a light cleaning to it. It just has that appearance, and that's probably why it was sold as raw. This one sold for $2,515, and that's the correct amount of money for a high-graded example, even if it does exhibit a little bit of cleaning. So if you have these like big-time, very popular varieties, sometimes, if you're looking to sell them, it may not be worth grading. Just some food for thought. Now here's the other really cool listing, 2021 Washington Crossing the Delaware die chips. This is a set of 5, what is called a progression set. So it starts off with the smaller chips, and then they get progressively bigger as you go, and then you have a fully formed Crown Hamburger die chip. Okay, that's the big mama right there. Now, the coin on the top left has always sold really well in the last few months, okay? But we might be seeing some cracks in the armor of the value, and that's probably just a byproduct of the market continuously obtaining some stock out there. So the market's a little bit flooded, and it's affected the price overall. Okay, we're going to talk about this one first. This set of 5 coins, by the way, that presentation looks nice, but all 5 coins in this particular lot sold for $100, and that's with 2 bids. Now, customarily, the fully involved later state die chip that you see here has sold for between $150 to $200, and it was like that for the better part of September and October. I don't know if you guys remember. I talked about it a lot. But these coins have slipped down to about $100 to $125. There was a seller that had injected the market with like 3 or 4 of them at the same time, and each of those sold for about $70 to $80. So as you can see, the market is heavily influenced by inventory and volume. So the more of them that are out there, again, keep in mind, you keep injecting the market with these coins, the prices will dip a little bit. But this is like one of the most relevant errors to be found in 2021 coinage. Again, keep looking for them. There's actually, still quite a valuable coin. All right, so here's our other piece of currency. This one is amazing. 1969C $10 Federal Reserve note. This one obviously has a wildly misaligned third print. I mean, you see it right there. It's in pretty good shape, albeit it does have a, looks like a coffee stain or something on this top left corner right here. The back of the note is perfectly centered margin-wise. And this example sold for $242.29, and that's with 29 bids. Again, a very popular, very desired error type. Now here's one that you probably won't see come across coin rolls that often. Now this one was sold by Fred Weinberg, who is one of the biggest error coin professionals in the hobby today. But this is a 2005D. This is a Denver minted Oregon State quarter. The coin looks a little funny because it looks like it's cut off on one side. You guys have heard of curved clips? Well, this is the exact opposite. This is what they call an elliptical clip. where the clipped planchet actually follows the curvature of the coin, and it doesn't curve into the coin like a standard curved clip. So these are a little bit more scarce. This one right here sold for $85, and that's with 18 bits, actually. So in spite of its condition, it did sell for a lot of money. Keep an eye out for these. These pop up infrequently, but when you do find them, it is a really nice find. Well, we're bound to talk about a pretty major cud die break error. Here's a 1970S. It's the only one on the list, and we kept it toward the end of the show. It's in phenomenal shape, but look at that cud die break on the obverse, and then you do have the corresponding weakness on the reverse as well. You do want to see that on these. Piece of the die had fallen off, before this particular coin was struck. So it's going to leave a pretty big void, and that's what that glob is right there at the top of the coin. Again, this is like your marquee error that people are paying a ton of money for these days. This example sold for $53, and that's with 18 bits. Very strong sale. But finally, we're going to end it off on an example of coin that, again, is out there today. And this is the big dog. This is the most latest progression of the strike through that you will find, bar none, on the Tuskegee Airmen quarters. Again, these are only on Philadelphia minted examples. But as you can see, this one has a much bigger strike through on this building. And it's also got this little bit of a strike through here by the airplane wing, which looks like the airplane wing is a little bit on fire. So, I mean, this thing is just all knotted up with all sorts of really cool strike through. I've highlighted one of these about a month ago. This is the rare one. You don't see this one that often with the double strike through on there. Here's a closer look of that particular error point. How about $279.75? This is about as big of an error as you will get for this particular coin. If any indication shows of the direction in which these coins are heading as far as value for the later progression of strike through, if it's anything like the American Samoa strike through on the bat's face version, which there was an example about a month ago that sold for over $1,000, this is going to be a big one right here. I would guarantee you in about a year's time, when these are not being found anymore in circulation, this is going to be a wildly expensive coin just because of like the placement of the strike through. It's truly coincidental, and you can't make stuff up like this. This is the type of like error coin that we all strive to find because it's real money. I mean, these things are worth many hundreds of dollars. But that's going to go ahead and do it, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank each and every single one of you for joining in on this long pocket change market report. They're all long, but you do get a lot of information and a lot, I hope, inspiration to go out there and actually look for these things. I'm your host, Sean, with BlueRidgeSilverhound. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed today's content. Hit the dislike button if you don't. Coinaholics, we are discovering together. I wish you guys the best of luck in all of your hunting activities, and I will see you on the next coin video. So long.